Welcome to Game Crunch, your weekly video game podcast. My name is Mike Anastasia. With me today, we got Brandon,
Yo,
and we're here to
it's
talk
me.
about games and things. What's on the agenda today? Tomodochi Life demo came out. Super Mario Wonders DLC came out. Those are the big new things, and then news and
Yep.
some other little things. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You ready to get into it?
Yes.
All right. Where do I want to start? I'll start with the Tomodachi Life demo.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so they put out a demo for Tomodachi Life. I forget what the subtitle is for this Switch version, but I mean, if you played Tomodachi Life before, this feels identical, really.
I haven't.
Oh, you
So
didn't even play that on the DS, the 3DS?
no, I didn't.
Oh,
So
yeah. It's
so
wild.
fun story
Um,
about that game. I
uh-huh.
was interested in playing it, and it before I got rid of my 3DS and everything, it
Mhm.
arrived in like the $20 bin in a bunch of different places. And I
Yeah.
was like, I'll just get it for cheap. But like almost immediately after it went to the $20 bin, every copy sold out, and it shot up to $300. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll never play this again. Fuck it.
Yeah. And it is just like a strange, quirky kind of I
Why
don't
is
even
it
know
so
what I would call it.
expensive? Why
Swing.
is it so fucking expensive?
I don't know. Well, don't sleep on this one then if you're that worried about it. But yeah, it's just like a quirky sim game. You take your Miis, you let them interact with each other. You can do it will just do like random bizarre things. Like you'll have strange dreams, you'll have weird newscasts. But then you do things like you make them happy, like you get them into relationships, they can have kids. Um, all sorts of things. The demo only lets you have 3 Miis on your island, and then I think you get like a restaurant or not a restaurant, like a grocery store and like a clothes shop to like buy some things. But after like a few minutes, it's just like, all right, this is all you can do today. You're done. Like you're done with the demo until the game comes out. It's like okay, that's it. But in the meantime, it was like, well, you make your first me, which was myself, and then the second me I put in the game was for DJ, and it was like the game doesn't have any censoring, at least as far as I can tell.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was like, oh, do you want to talk? You should think of something to talk to DJ about. And I was like, sex. And it was like, okay. And it's just like, I can't even remember. I pulled up a screenshot. I made a screenshot of it just because I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, I can't believe it's not stopping me. And it did not. It didn't even try. Um, let's see. Let me
The good
take a.
news, the original one now is actually cheaper because of this one being announced. So it's dropped to like 150.
Oh, okay. Much cheaper.
$100 for it without the box.
Uh
I don't know. I
huh.
might look up this game. Might give it a go. I'll play the demo of this one though.
Yeah, I mean, I would. My screenshots aren't pulling up on here. Um,
That's
but
fine.
yeah, no, it's just ridiculous. Um, so it is a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, it lets you do all sorts of like just wacky things. In the last game, like you could, pair up people, let them get married, and then they could have kids, and then actually you could use Street Pass to send the kids like around the world. One of my kids left and never came back.
Yeah.
Um, last time I saw them, they were in France. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, it's fun. I would say if you're interested in the game, try out the demo. It's free, obviously.
Mhm.
Game comes out next week, so I think it's next week, right? Or is it later this week?
I don't know.
Let me see. Oh, and the subtitle is "Living the Dream." Okay, no, it comes out on the 16th, so it is uh
I have a problem. Hold on.
2 weeks. Yeah, so 2 weeks. So yeah, we got a little time for this before it comes out. Um, so we'll see Pokemon Champions before this game comes out. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I recommend people check it out. It's nice to see them use the Mii's for something other than nothing. So that's also nice. Uh, but yeah, that is going to be in the pipeline. It's a lot of fun. It's as quirky and ridiculous as I expected it to be, so that made me happy. I was worried that they would be too tame with the new one, and obviously it seems like they've gone kind of even further in that ridiculous direction. So, but it is just like random. I'm trying to think some of the dreams that because I did have like one dream sequence in this game. Oh, and I think yeah, someone was dreaming and they saw like my character off in the distance, and then they walked up and they were like a billion feet tall. Um, so yeah, it's just random things. You'll see. Watch some videos if you're unsure. Try out the demo, but it is wild. The second newish thing that I played was the Super Mario Wonder DLC. So I played that. So it's kind of got, I'd say maybe like three kind of different like prongs to this DLC. One is there's multiplayer, which I have not tried out. And by multiplayer, I mean like there's multiplayer mini games now that you can play. And they look like they're a lot of fun actually. They just look like random, like chaotic kind of things that you would expect them to have. But yeah, I don't have anyone to play with, so I've not played it yet. So that's one thing. Second thing that they added were like these challenges, and challenges are a lot of fun. You earn some sort of currency by completing them, which you can use to get new power ups and like visual bonuses, I guess, in the game. So some of the things. Did you play Wonder? I can't remember.
No, I've never played Mario Wonder. I never went back and played that one. I was thinking about doing it with the Switch 2 release and everything.
Hmm.
But I'm just gonna wait. I'm just gonna wait a bit.
That's fine.
There's far too many things right now that I'm interested in playing, and
Hmm.
it's like at the bottom of my list, honestly.
No, I just was asking for in terms of context, but no, because they have a badge system in the game which lets you kind of
Okay.
change the power ups and stuff.
Hmm.
But one of the neat things in the DLC was they added this currency that lets you basically get new badges, but most of them are like combo badges, basically. So they will give you like two different abilities instead of just one. So it's like you don't have to choose between parachute and like for example, like another one I can think of just off the top of my head was one gives you parachute and one gives you like a special swimming ability. And so instead of having to choose like one or the other, like it lets you
Hmm.
have both. Um so those are kind of some nice things that they added in there too. There's a new power up. It's like a flower power. I don't remember what it's called, but
Is it
lets
like
you
the
kind of
flower that likes the yap, or is it?
no, that's the
Okay.
Wonder
Okay.
Flower. But it basically puts Mario in like a flower costume, and he can shoot flowers around and do different things with them. They're neat though because they shoot upwards as opposed to his normal kind of projectile power ups that like fire forwards. So
Hmm.
that's kind of interesting. But the challenges are fun. Some of them are like defeat all the enemies. Some of them are I'm trying to think. Some of them are like collect all the coins. Some
Hmm.
of them are just kind of like really like arbitrary challenges, but they seem like they're really kind of well thought out and fun. I actually had like a surprisingly good time just kind of going through those. And the other thing that I really enjoyed too, so they added the Koopalings back in this as boss battles. And those are really nice too, because Mario Wonder, I think one of the more reasonable complaints that people had was just kind of the repetitiveness of the boss battles. So by
Okay.
doing something like this, it actually just gives you like seven brand new boss battles that use the wonder powers in kind of creative ways. I've only played about half of them, but I actually really enjoyed some of the stuff. Some of the stuff that they ended up doing with them was pretty creative. So, and like I would say, like a good challenge. So I really enjoyed the stuff that was there that I got to play with. Speaking of Wonderflower, I forgot to talk about this actually, and just reminded me because I forgot the last like 3 weeks. But I did buy one of those Wonder Flowers, like one of the talking ones that they had
Of course you
mentioned.
did.
Like, yeah, I think I mentioned it back when I pre-ordered it, but I forgot about it until it, like shipped, and so I had hooked it up. Actually, surprisingly, I actually really like it. It's a talking clock. Um, so it will say things just kind of randomly through the day, but
Hmm.
on the hour it will let you know what time it is, which actually it's kind of nice. Because I don't really have any kind of like audible way to know what time it is. So when it's like, hey, it's 6 p.m., I'll be like, oh yeah, nice. So there's that. But I think it's kind of charming. It drives TJ insane, which I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but it's just there. So I told him he can't touch it. It's just got to stay there. So, but I said it doesn't turn on until 11 in the morning, and then it turns off at like 9. So it's not like it's all the time. But yeah, I mean
Wait,
that's
wait. It doesn't turn
huh.
off till 11 in the morning,
That's
or
when
you
I
said it
set it
turns
to
off.
turn on
Oh, okay, turn on 11 in the morning, and then it turns off.
at 9. It will wish you good night at 9 o'clock. So, but
I see. I see.
you could set what
No,
time
no,
you wanted to do
my
that at.
brain. You were like making it sound like it's not that bad, and then my brain went. His alarm's running from 11 in the morning to 9 p.m. What the fuck is wrong with you? That is bad. No wonder
Yeah,
TJ's
no,
mad. I
no.
was
So
like, Jesus Christ. Like, it's just talking to you throughout the house for the next fucking, like, 7 hours.
I mean, basically, at 11 in the morning, it'll be like you'll yawn and it'll like wake up and be like, "Oh, good morning," and then I'd say maybe like every like 30-ish minutes, it will just kind of drop some just random thing, and then on the hour, it'll just let you know what hour it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it will just say like random stuff, like I don't know, I don't know, kind of like charming like things. It'll be like I don't know, like good vibe things, like I hope you're having a great day, or don't forget to eat your vegetables, like like just random shit.
The fuck?
Um, yeah, but it's cute if you like the wonder flowers. I think it's charming. Like I said, I'm surprisingly I really like the fact that it's a talking alarm clock. If anything, not like I
Mm-hmm.
know you can get those anywhere. I have plenty of clocks in the house too. It's not like I have a shortage of knowing what time it is, but I did really enjoy that. So
Mm-mm.
yeah, so there's that. Um, Otherwise, the last kind of big thing that I did this week is I played Resident Evil Village. So I finished this. I think I started it or caught back up to where I was last week when we were talking, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
all the way through it now. So I finished it all up. I really like Village a lot. I think Village is very interesting amongst the other Resident Evil games.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know you've played this. You've played it all, right?
Yes, I
The whole
played all of
story.
Resident Evil. Yeah.
Yeah, I like this one because it's very quirky, and it's very strange Resident Evil, and I feel like they've been. I can't really think of the last time they've had like very strange Resident Evil like this, like Code Veronica, maybe. Um,
Probably the ones that were online games, right?
oh, maybe. I mean, the villains in this are just very over the top, um, which I feel like we just have not seen those almost like cartoony, almost movie villains in a Resident Evil, like this in a long time.
Mm.
Like, yeah, you have your big bads like Wesker and things, but they're kind of like somewhat serious. Like these ones are basically like, hey, I'm like a Dracula ripoff, or I'm a Van Helsing ripoff, like. But I feel like they have very interesting stories and very interesting characterizations. Even the Duke, I thought, was just a very surprisingly compelling character, even though they're just a merchant. Uh, but I thought that whole thing was interesting. I liked the setting and how it kind of played out. It's so strange because Resident Evil 7 is Resident Evil 7. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely its own thing. But Resident Evil Village is like they took 7 and RE4'd it, and so it's like it's very action heavy compared to like the scary aspect of like Resident Evil 7. And also too they did a lot of things too, like making the world like kind of like different pathways and things to kind of go back to and explore again, for better weapons and things. The game's always had it to some degree, but this kind of felt like almost like separate missions, kind of like I was thinking about this the other day, like games that kind of do something similar. I was trying to think of like I think the new Tomb Raider did it quite a bit, where it's
Mm-hmm.
really like, hey, this is almost like kind of going into like a shrine or something, where it's kind of like, hey, here's some small puzzles, here's some small enemy encounters, but if you get through it, you'll get a decent reward, kind of thing. I like that aspect of it.
I see.
It's kind of surprising to me how different 7, 8, and 9 all are from each other, because they
Yes,
are.
they are very different. They are vastly different from each other. It's like 7 is like first person Resident Evil 1 in some
Yes.
respect because it's all one building with some little, offshoots like you can go outside and this, that, and the other and whatnot. But
Yeah,
it's mostly one building,
but it plays a
like
lot
the
like
original,
one.
and it
Yeah.
plays a lot like 1. 8 is like almost open world, but not like it's more like multiple worlds interconnected with each other, like
Yeah.
areas.
Mhm.
And each one of them kind of has like a theme. And
Yeah,
and
like I
then
said, 8 is more like Resident Evil 4 to me in a lot of ways. It's like the first person Resident Evil 4.
and then 9 is
Um,
Resident Evil 6 if it didn't suck. I said it.
well, yeah, I mean Resident Evil 6 did suck. I'm trying to think though if I think that's accurate. I'm not sure on that one yet. I have to think
Multiple
about it.
protagonists doing different things, being split apart from each other and reconnecting together for an overarching story, that sort of thing. That's why I was comparing it to 6, just in general.
Yeah,
Um,
but I almost think in that regards, I almost think two's probably a better comparison.
Yeah,
Uh,
probably, or I guess maybe also 4, but there's actually horror in 9 as opposed to 4,
yeah,
which
that's
4
true.
isn't as scary, but it does have the same kind of idea as
Moments.
4. Yeah,
Yeah.
moments is 4, but it's I guess it would be closer to 4 than it is to 6 because 6 is not scary at all. But
No, negative scary.
I was
Yeah.
trying to go from the split protagonist, and I guess I would be going instead of shit. I can't remember the two that
But I
were in
feel like
6.
4 is just not quite 4
No,
just doesn't have as much horror as 9 does, because like,
no,
Grace's sections
absolutely
are
not.
definitely very
Grace's
horror themed.
section is like Resident Evil 7,
Mhm.
and then oh god,
Leon's sections
Leon
are
sections are
are Resident Evil 4,
Resident Evil
basically.
4. Yeah, it's like 4 but cranked up to 11, but not
Yeah.
quite Resident Evil 6 levels.
Yeah. But yeah, regardless, I do still really like Resident Evil Village. I'm actually surprised how much I liked Resident Evil Village, all said and done. Um,
It is the black sheep of this trilogy for
yeah, it
reasons.
is. But I mean, I think
I
it's
like it. I
I
like it,
like
but
it a lot too.
I think a lot of the reason I like Resident Evil Village is the castle. I think the castle is a really good setting, and then you have some weaker settings after that. That's my opinion on it. You don't really get as high a high as the Lady Dimitrescu castle
Yeah,
after you
I
beat it.
agree. That is true. It's not that the other settings are bad, but they're just kind
No,
of
they're just
more
kind of yeah.
they're just made to be short kind of
Mm-hmm.
jaunts, and then you kind of go back. I think maybe the only one that's not quite that is like the factory area, a bit
Yeah,
later, but still, even that's just not as the castle's an interesting setting. The factory is just a factory.
yeah.
Yeah, it's, but I overall I do really like it. I like the setting. I like the kind of the story they set up. I was actually watching like a YouTube kind of like lore kind of video about it yesterday, and it's kind of interesting, letting them kind of connect the dots that the story kind of sets out for you. Because I do think that there's some interesting documentation there, and just kind of how things are explained, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
how it changes. Like, interestingly, I think Resident Evil 8, even being so disconnected the series story wise, has probably more of an impact on like the overarching story than many of the other games.
It does. It
Um,
does.
but it's one of those things. But it's like a lot of the other Resident Evil games, where if you aren't really familiar with it, you're not really going to know. But if you know, you know. Uh, but yeah, I really like that. I'm like 2/3 of the way through the DLC, and the DLC is kind of a lot different, like very much so. And I think you said the other day when we talked about it, you didn't play the DLC at all
I
for
did
this one,
not
right?
play the DLC. I think I own it now. I think I bought it and just forgot about it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's very different. You play as Rose, so it's set in like the future, basically,
Mm-hmm.
because she was just a baby when the first game came out. Well, actually, not even the first. She was just a baby when Resident Evil Village came out. She didn't even exist when Resident Evil 7 was there. um and just kind of like the implications of like kind of like her thing. But it kind of it takes like two steps forward and like two steps back in some different ways. Like, I really don't kind of like the crafting system in this, because they actually changed it up quite a bit from even where Resident Evil 8 was, or Village. Yeah. I think they made it just kind of less friendly compared to where it was. um, and then it also has kind of like her, I don't know, mold powers or whatever. Is it's kind of like the underlying story about it. But it's interesting. I'm like I said, 2/3 of the way through it. I'm in like the last area. I was like, do I want to finish? I almost thought about finishing it last night, because I probably only have maybe an hour left. And I was like, how much is left of this? And I was like, there's a lot, and a final boss battle. I'm like, nope, not doing it tonight. I'm not feeling it. So, but I think they do some really creative stuff. The middles, it seems like it's broken up into three acts. The first act is kind of like the castle area. The second act is kind of like a spooky area, and I think they do some really kind of interesting stuff with that. And the last area I just got to is kind of like a return to the village. But it is really interesting. And if there's anything compelling on it, I'll kind of update on it next week again. But yeah, that's where things are. I do, like I said, I'm really happy with Resident Evil Village. And I'm still kind of in like a Resident Evil mood. I don't know what I'm gonna kind of replace this void with when I'm done with the DLC, because I've realized that Tomodachi Life and Pocopia have too much of an overlap, and I really can't mentally handle playing both of them at the same time.
hmm
So, um, they are just not going to overlap well. So I'll need something kind of more actiony to play through. But Pragmata's not too far away, and that's still kind of calling to me. So that may end up being where I end up, but we shall see. Um, but otherwise, that's really all I'm planning on talking about this week. What did you want to talk about?
So I just wanted to say, well, first of all, I haven't really played anything. But I have been looking at a lot, and I mean a lot of indie games that are releasing either now, soon, or have just released. And normally, or games that are coming up. And normally, when it comes down to it, I'll be like, hey, you should look into this game in the future. And I kind of have that for 3 games.
Uh-huh.
I'm not really sure when these will show up on console. I
Mhm.
do feel like they are interesting enough that they might. So I will say one released today, but I tested it and played it a lot last year, and I mentioned it, and it's called Racoin, which is a
Oh yeah.
coin pusher roguelike that released today. And I mean, I played the original, right? The original demo and did some testing for it and whatnot. And I
Hmm.
do feel like it has that very much Vampire Survivors slash Slay the Spire kind of kick to it, where it's just it once it clicks, which doesn't take very long, it's just super addictive to play, and it's really enjoyable with its general gameplay loop. So I think that that one will probably end up on consoles in the near future. It is very good. There's a few others that stand out, and there's one that I know 100% now will come over, which is Slay the Spire 2.
Oh
But
yeah.
there's one game that I saw that was really interesting. That's called Lucid Blocks. This just released as well. Now I don't know if this is going to appear on consoles, but I do think it's super fucking cool and a game that should be played.
Hmm.
Um, Lucid Blocks is a horror survival game that takes place in what I can only describe as a Minecraft from Timu. That is the
Okay.
only thing I can describe it as. So, it's very surreal and dreamlike.
Hmm.
So the game is an open world Minecraft like game that doesn't really give you a lot of information on what you're doing or where you are going. Eventually you will figure it out, but it is very much like like LSD Dream Emulator from the original PlayStation 1, or these really weird games that would normally be like walking sims where you walk around and explore a place to figure out what to do next, but there's actual like combat and gameplay involved in this one.
Hmm.
It's really difficult to describe what this is, but it feels like playing a dream in
Okay.
some cases. It has like dreamlike logic that just makes no real sense. I don't want to spoil things about this game because I think actually experiencing the game for the first time is what makes it so interesting.
Hmm.
And like piecing together what the world wants from you because it doesn't have any rhyme or logic. Um, Compared to what you would normally get with like a survival crafting like game. This one kind of breaks all the rules in different ways, and it's really neat. And the whole surreal and psychedelic nature of it is what makes it like kind of like horror. It's very much a liminal space kind of deal where everything just looks slightly off in a way that is unnerving. And there's like weird noises and things that are following you around. It's a kind of a case of like not understanding what you're looking at is what brings the horror out in this game. It's
Uh-huh.
very interesting in that aspect because it's not like your typical ooh booga booga jump scare horror. It's like I fear this because I don't know what it is kind of
Okay.
horror. And that's what makes it a very different kind of game. It's like $10 on Steam right now, and
Uh-huh.
that's like not even a sale price. That's just the normal price. Um, I don't know if it'll show up on consoles, but I kind of hope it does because I do foresee it being something that could take off pretty massively. Um, or at least have like some sort of cult following and do really well there. There's just a few things like that have been showing up lately. There's some I don't really know a lot about, but I'm kind of keeping it that way because I want to experience them myself. Like there's Roboto, which is a 2D platformer where you play as a frog, but it's it's very weird. That's the easiest way to describe it. I've seen things where like it changes like gameplay styles and looks like a completely different game, and I don't know what's going on or how we get to that point, but it looks really interesting. Um, it's there's just a few games out right now or that are coming out because I just described the ones that are out, but there are also some that are coming out in the near future that I think look really really good that I'm not hearing a lot about
Mhm.
or haven't shown up on any of those like indie directs or anything yet. So I'm a little surprised they're not there. There's Restory, which I believe I've told you about, where it is a simulator where you repair broken electronics, and it's really chill and really fun. I don't know, did I show you that one? Um,
Restore. I think so.
so the developer actually took apart like PlayStation ones and stuff and learned how to put them back together to do the design of restoration in the game itself. It's
Mhm.
really cool how like in depth they went with it, and it's super neat. That game is coming out sometime this year. I don't know if it's coming to console or when it will come to console, but it is very much like a cozy game where you are like a little shop on the side of the road that repairs people's like electronics, and you have to go through the act of like buying broken parts on a fake eBay to like replace like other things. Like maybe you buy something where the motherboard is broken, but the screen's still intact. So then you could transplant the screen from that broken one into the one that you're trying to repair that has a good working motherboard, and vice versa, and that sort of deal. It's a very interesting game because it is something that you see like on YouTube Shorts. It's something that some people actually do. Like I myself, I do that sometimes with different like electronic things and whatnot. And it's really cool just how much effort they put into like understanding how that stuff works, and it's very different from your usual like simulator games. So neat game, neat game. And
Yeah.
then there was another one I wanted to talk about coming out, which is called Tower of Tears, which looks like a mascot platformer.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but there's something wrong with it, and I don't know what it is because I
Okay.
haven't gotten to play it yet. Um, it feels like a game where you're traversing something, but it's alive and it doesn't want you to be able to traverse it. It's
Okay.
got like elements of like normal platformer games, like old 3D platformer games, like Rayman or like old PlayStation 1 platformer games. It looks like an old PlayStation 1 platformer. And then there's like psychological horror aspects to it as well, where like you might find like people at the bottom of the tower telling you to be careful going there. It's got some of the like Resident Evil fixed camera angles and stuff. Clearly it's going for like a spooky kind of something's not quite right vibe, but
Mhm.
it looks very very good. It looks very much like something that will be a lot of people will end up gravitating towards, which I guess I just sent it to you so you could see. Um, yeah. Again, feels very old school, but also feels very fresh because it's something new and a bit different. Yeah, I just there this year seems to be the year where a ton of indie games that have had things shown off in the past or even in the present, I guess, are releasing. So like even like there's like a game that looks somewhere like a mix between Tony Hawk and Katamari Damacy, where you play as a train that's glued to the tracks doing like stunts that you would see in like fucking Tony Hawk or SSX Tricky, but it's like in a really wacky and weird world. And that was shown off. I think that was actually shown off recently at a Nintendo Direct as well, so that one is coming to console. That one comes out very, very soon. It's called Dishattack? Dishattack? Uh, Disha Attack? Is it Disha Attack?
Huh?
I don't know. Maybe you can help me. I don't know words. I'm just bad at it. Here you go. How is this even pronounced? Dinsha Attack? Would that be it?
Dench Attack. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got that coming out very soon. It's very wacky. It's very colorful. Very weird and just all over the place. It's got a lot of old school weird Japanese like vibes to it, which I don't know if it is, but it looks like it is. So yeah. Yeah, just there are tons and tons and tons of indie games coming out this year that I highly recommend looking into if you can play them, and if they do come to console. And I'll just rattle off a few more. There's Queen's Domain, which is essentially a spiritual successor to Kingsfield, which Kingsfield was the game that was made by FromSoft before FromSoft started making all the Dark Souls games and whatnot. Um, there is Silly Polly Beast, which is a retro-inspired, like Silent Hill-esque kind of game where it's like survival horror, and you can like see it from like a top-down perspective, fixed camera, yada yada yada, that sort of deal.
Yeah.
Dungeons of Dusk, which takes the game Dusk that was it's been out for quite a while now. That's like a boomer shooter, and turns it into like those old mobile phone dungeon crawlers, like they had of Doom and Duke Nukem. It's one of those, but as a full game. There's Gunmetal Gothic, which looks like a old PS1, PSP kind of game that's sort of in the vein gameplay style wise of something like Parasite Eve or like a Third Birthday, that sort of deal. There's tons and tons of things coming out this year, indie wise, that are very interesting and totally worth looking into. We just got Serious Sam Shatterverse, which was announced last week, which is a 5-player co-op roguelike of Serious Sam. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And then the last two things I'll share are 2 music games, 2 rhythm
Okay.
games. Beat Weaver is looking to be like a spiritual successor / indie version of Amplitude, and it looks very good. And Stage Tour is Guitar Hero and Rock Band, made by the original Guitar Hero devs, which was announced very recently. Red Octane Games will be making a game called Stage Tour, which is a rhythm action game that plays like the original Guitar Heroes, like the first 3, essentially.
Okay. That's not a bad thing. I was just thinking about Guitar Hero today.
Well, now you can think about it with the actual developers in mind.
Yay.
It says it's coming out this year, but there's like 0 release date currently. So, yeah.
Okay.
That's it. That's all I've got to say. Those games are cool. Look forward to them in the future. They'll probably show up somewhere in one of those Nintendo Directs where everyone pretends like nothing was announced, and then some really cool game comes out, and then everyone pretends like they were always excited about it.
Yeah, as usual. Yes. You ready to move on to news?
Sure.
Okay. What's on the news? So Nintendo is changing how their game prices are. It's
Sony
something
is
that Nintendo's changing their game prices. Sony's changing their system prices. Is Sony changing their game prices too?
I don't think so. I think it's just the
Okay.
system.
Yeah.
But we'll get there in a second.
We'll get there in a second. But Nintendo, they announced that they're going to do something that I think people have wanted for a while. Basically, they're going to start offering different pricing between physical and digital releases. And it sounds like, at least based on the first game that this applies to, the Yoshi game that's coming out in May, it will be, $60 digital, $70 physical.
All right, so now I have some questions for you about this.
Yeah, of course.
Right? I'm going to play devil's advocate for once, right?
Go for it.
Ready for this one?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, I saw that some people were showing images and even past pre-orders on like Amazon and stuff where they've gotten the game for 60 physical.
Yeah.
and now it's been changed. So, is
Well,
this
no, no, no,
no?
no, 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 no. I should just clarify this before we move on. Nintendo's never set a price for this game prior to this announcement. So
Okay, so that was
anyone that was
just
doing
Amazon.
pre-orders for it
Yeah,
was
got it.
taking a guess. Yes.
Got it.
Mhm,
Got it. Got it. That makes sense.
mhm.
I wanted to ask that question specifically because if the Amazon pre-orders were true and it was originally going to be a $60 game, then it would be a question of, is this a case of actually, you know, making games cheaper that are digital, or is it a case of bringing up every game to the $70 price point that is physical? That was going to be my next question, because when you think about it that way, yes, it is very good for the people that are physical, that are digital, like, gamers and whatnot. But
Yeah.
then the people that are paying, sixty
Physical or
bucks
just
and getting
paying
them
$10
physical are
more.
now
Yeah.
paying $10 more. So then that wouldn't be necessarily a price decrease, except for the digital, which then it would be an increase for the physical, which would be a case of moving back towards, back into the direction of trying to phase out physical or price people out for buying physical, that sort of thing.
Yeah. The
That's
way
what I
that
was trying to get at, because I did see those images of people that had bought it, but you saying that there was never a price. Okay, I get that. I understand that
Yeah, because
completely.
I saw
So it
people
was just a
talking about it
guess.
on Reddit
Hmm.
similarly, and yeah, Nintendo just had not announced a price for this yet. I mean, generally they don't. I mean, you think about it, like how often do we see price announcements? Generally, not until stuff is pretty close. I mean, think about it. Even after the Switch stuff, like when they waited until they kind of got a lot closer to the dates to kind of lock in prices. But the way that I view this, and I think it's the way that people probably should think about it, is
Yeah.
Nintendo's probably going to set their base prices and then just expect a more of a premium for physical units.
Well,
So not really, don't think about it as a discount, but think about it more as, hey, you're paying for actual physical things.
so
That's to
then
cover
then
the.
it would be an increase on physical goods, which is what my question was. Increase price for the physical versions, which is what it would be, a price hike, not a price deduction. The
No, I
way
don't
you
think
just
I don't.
described it.
I think you're. I don't know. I mean, your thinking is not necessarily wrong. The
Hmm.
way that I look at it, though, is this is more of you're getting what you're paying for.
So
If like, because otherwise, you even think about it, like with something like, say, like Donkey Kong Bonanza. I mean, I
yeah,
paid $70 for that
yeah,
game. So did someone physical.
yes.
So who gets the shaft on that one? Like
So
technically, I do because I don't have any physical items
that's
associated with
true.
it, but I paid the same price. Where now it's like, okay, the actual manufacturing cost, which is probably not too far away from that $10.
Here's the next question.
Paying for the people that are actually want it.
Here's
Yeah.
the next question.
Hmm.
Do you think we'll see things like, oh, this is a $60 game, physical, so will it be $50 digital? Or do you think their cutoff is the $60 point and it'll always be $60 digital for that sort of thing?
I think
That's
we'll.
what I'm curious about.
Yeah, I'm curious
Or
about that
or
too. I
or
do think that we'll.
like, so like, say like this is a $50 physical game. All right, well it's also $50 digital, because then that would be a case of actually proving that, oh, this is actually just a price hike on this with a certain cutoff point. Because why would they put out a $50 game physical when they're talking about, oh, we're going to charge less for digital? Shouldn't the digital version then be $40, or so on and so forth? Do you think we'll see anything similar to that, where it's like,
I
this is a $40 game, so it's $30 digital? I don't think we're going to see that personally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're gonna see something like that. There might be some. I could see Nintendo being squirrely with something like, say, Rhythm Heaven, when that comes out, because the Switch games
Hmm.
are going to have a higher manufacturing cost, which is, I think that's probably why they're doing it, because they need the
And that's,
faster, bigger cards.
yeah, and I get that. I get
Whereas
that, but
something like the game key cards, I would
hmm
not be surprised if maybe we did not see it with that.
hmm
I also may not be surprised if we do not see it with Switch One games. But the only point of reference we have right now is Yoshi, so it's really hard to guess kind of where they're
oh,
going to go
of
with it.
course. Hmm.
I mean, I do think that they're
I was
probably
more of
going to.
asking what you think they'll do. Do you think, because they marketed this like, oh, digital games are cheaper, so digital games
I
are going to be
think that
cheaper? Do you
honestly, I
think
think
they'll?
they're going to do it across the board. That would be my guess. I think that for them, there's more incentive for them to do it digitally. So they're trying to prod people that way, but they're also giving people the option to have physical that want
Yes,
it.
yes.
Because the big thing is, if you think about it, it's like, that extra $10 or whatever.
Hmm.
If you are sending that game to Walmart or wherever for someone to
Yeah,
buy it, like Walmart is going to take their own cut of that game, whereas with digital there is no cut of the game to anyone else.
yeah.
So they have more incentive to do it. This is probably in their mind too the kind of pseudo replacement for vouchers, in some ways, because it essentially does the
Mm.
same thing. Basically, like, hey, we're going to reward you for buying digital. Here's $10 off your game, which is kind of what the vouchers did. And I'm sure they've probably seen trends that people who buy digital probably tend to buy digital, and people who buy physical tend to buy physical. So
Yeah.
it's really just kind of sorting those out. But like I said, kind of giving more incentive to there too. I think the bigger question though is, are we going to see anyone else kind of follow in these steps? And
I
I
don't
don't
think.
mean like first party. I mean more like third party. They third
Mm.
parties may have more of an incentive to do it. The long-standing conversation around this subject has always been, retailers are the ones that are kind of pushing away from price differences between digital and physical. However, we have also seen over the last year that retailers are giving much less space to video games. So I think Nintendo's kind of like, much less space to video games, and GameStop is basically collapsing on itself. So I don't think Nintendo sees that they have the incentive to necessarily treat the retailers that way anymore. Like, they got what they wanted, they're okay with it. But I could see someone like, definitely some more of the price savvy um, third parties actually taking advantage of this. It will be interesting. I think it's a very needed change in the industry, especially with the pricing of stuff now too. Because obviously, and we've talked about a lot over the last year, um, with all the tariff stuff that's been going on, but prices have been weighing very heavily on people's minds, especially with the economy right now. Um, so I think, on Nintendo's part too, they're like, hey, this is an easy way we can give people discounts on our games to hopefully keep them motivated to keep buying them without actually having to, necessarily drop everything down or do something that's going to make these games less of an incentive to buy.
Mm.
So but it is interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see how they end up ultimately doing it. But I do actually think that they'll probably stick to you know a price difference between physical
I
and digital.
and I do. I hope they do, because if they didn't, then that would mean that it's not a case of, like we were saying. You were saying you're looking at more as, it's cheaper to put out those physical copies. I mean, those digital copies than it is the physical ones, because of all the licensing and all that sort of thing. Which you're 100% correct. But like I said, if they don't stick to that when they release other games that are cheaper, such as like a $40 or a $50 game, then this was 100% just a price increase. And they were just trying to disguise it as something else. That's all I was saying. Because if that does end up being the case, we're like, okay, this game is $50. Like, what was it? Turna, the Xenoblade game
Oh
that
yeah.
was like $40.
Mhm.
Technically, by these standards, that would be $30 digital, and
I
I
mean,
just don't see Nintendo doing that.
but technically it was $30 digital, wasn't it? Because it was
No, it was
DLC
$40.
expansion. It wasn't
No,
a
it's $40.
standalone, but it wasn't a standalone digital game. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, it was. You could buy it standalone.
You could buy the digital game standalone. Are you
Yes.
sure?
Yeah. Here, let me just go double check, because I'm like
I'm double
90%
checking
sure.
too. And Nintendo's thing pulled up, so we'll see. Oh yeah, you can.
Yeah,
You can
yeah,
just buy it
$40.
straight up
You
there.
can just buy it. Yeah, digital. No need for the original game.
What about here?
And then the expansion pass was $30.
Yeah, and that's what I thought, because I'm pretty sure I only paid $30 for it.
Yep, you did. But you could
Um,
buy it digital without the original game being needed for 40. So like that would mean the expansion pass wouldn't matter. It'd still be $30. But that would also mean that would put the original Torna at $30 according to their new rules, or maybe even the original Torna at $30 and the DLC at $20. And I don't see that happening.
um, Yeah, I mean, I guess that game, that example you have is actually very strange,
It is.
because
That's why I decided to immediately go to it because
yeah,
you got to think outside the box because this is a Nintendo game. This
hmm
is their like technically first party. This is one of their big titles,
I still
that
think they
sort of
would
thing.
sell it for 30 though, because that's how the DLC is.
I I don't disagree, but then would that DLC be cheaper? Because the DLC is still not a physical thing.
No, I
Would
think
it
they
be
would keep
dropped?
the DLC the same price. I
Okay.
think they would have kept the standalone and the DLC to be the same price, and then I think they would have charged the $10 more for the physical.
And I think if that is what they do,
Hmm
that would be totally fine. And then they would actually be giving a discount to the people buying digital. And I think that'd be cool. Like
Yeah.
I, obviously they're
And the
doing it
other
for
thing
their
I
own
should say
benefit,
too,
but
yeah,
I'm a digital buyer, so it's also my benefit
yeah.
because we have shared interest.
hmm Yeah, the other thing I'd say too is, we keep saying $10. We don't know if it's going to be $10 every time. I mean, I could see them doing like a $5 difference, and sometimes too. Um, depending on like you said, if they're looking at say like a $30 game, are they going to drop it down to 20? Maybe not, but maybe they drop it to 25. Who knows? It's so hypothetical right now, but
Obviously, but I was just wanted to run by you and see what you thought about that like
yeah,
general theory because I think there comes a point in time where like that price of like being like $40, Nintendo might just like put their foot down and be like, no, we're not lowering the price past this point. And hell, that point that it might not even lower it past might be 60. They might literally just be like anything that's under $60, it doesn't get the $10 less treatment.
yeah.
And then that's like, okay, well, then that would legitimately just be a price increase on your physical games and not a sales price for your digital. See, you can look at it either way right now because we don't have the data. But if that were to be what happened, then there's really no other way you could look at it. That would actually just be a increase on physical games and not a decrease on digital ones.
It's a gray area, I would say. I mean, I don't fully agree with it. It depends on the game. Like if they did it with say like I'll just throw out like an example of just something I know is just not going to be like as high budget, say like Rhythm Heaven.
Yeah.
That game's not a huge budget, but if they didn't do like a difference between digital and physical, then yeah, I would agree with you on something like that. On the flip side, though, if they did it with something like you say like the next 3D Mario, then that game is a huge budget. So it would be a little bit like different considerations on that side of things. But I also feel like if they're going to go out of their way to make a press release about this, as opposed to just kind of like organically letting people kind of realize it. I also think that they're planning on using it pretty liberally. So we'll
Well,
see.
I don't disagree. I'm just wanting to get your thoughts on
No,
like
it's a good question. I mean, it's not a bad thought
again,
at all.
like I said,
Mhm.
I'm playing devil's advocate here for once because you tend to be the one to do that most of the time. But
Oh yeah. Mhm.
someone's got to this time.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think it. I like I said, I think it's a good thing. So, but we'll see. I mean, regardless, I do think it's a good thing. Even if it's intermittent, like it's still not a bad thing. I think that there should be, you know, it kind of sucks paying the same price as physical games for all these years. So it's
Yeah,
nice to have that,
I
kind of
agree. I
incentive.
agree.
So, even if it's kind of more intermittent. So yeah, like I said, we'll see where it goes. But I said, at least right now, I'm optimistic, and we still have another month or and a half until we actually see it in practice.
Yeah,
So
I'm also hoping for the best. I would be very happy if what you think is going on is the correct is actually right. Like you're actually right about it.
yeah,
Because it would be the first time we've seen something like this. And we all know that companies love to follow after Nintendo because otherwise people will be like, "Well, Nintendo does this," and yada 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 yada.
yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I think that there's definitely room and definitely different, publishers. I think that could benefit from doing something similarly.
Mm-hmm.
So and I wouldn't be surprised too if Nintendo maybe even, well, the fact that they're doing it is even kind of opening the door to other people to have incentive to do it because it's just, I think a lot of people are just worried about, kind of the retail side of things for so long. But yeah, I mean, I think that's there. I mean, the other thing that you'll see too is like obviously it's going to probably lead to more discrepancies in terms of sale prices. But also interestingly too, actually, point of reference, actually we do have more points of reference to this than I'm thinking about. We're talking about here, but apparently in Europe they've been doing this for a while too.
Mhm.
Um, so there may be more points of reference for this as well.
And
But
I hope that this is actually a good thing. That's all.
yeah, actually, interestingly, the comments on Reddit that I saw, and I didn't really look into them to know like exactly how true or how how legitimate these kind of thoughts were, but I did see a lot of comments that said that it actually leads to better pricing physically a lot of times.
Mhm.
Because stores have the ability, and we don't think about this. I mean, stores can set the prices whatever they want. So Nintendo can set the suggested retail price at say like $70 for Yoshi, but if Walmart's like, no, I want to sell this for 60 to match the digital price, they can. There's nothing that stops them from doing that.
Yeah.
So in Europe, I guess it did say a lot of stores were trying to stay competitive with digital, and that actually led to them, kind of price matching a lot of times, especially if you wanted to, look around or go to a different retailer. You could often find things for, more of that price. So we actually may end up seeing that, some of those prices may even be more favorable. So, but it's still really kind of hard to see how things will shake out. So, yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents on it. We'll see. I'm excited though. I think it's like I said, I do think it's a good thing overall. So another news piece I want to talk about that I didn't write down, but I think we should. There's big rumors, speaking of the Switch, for
Yes.
games coming out this year.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, so Nate the Hate, who's kind of very well known
Mhm.
for his leaking,
Yep.
especially with Nintendo stuff, had made some big thoughts on his latest podcast. And some of this ties into the Mario movie. Because basically, Nintendo just out of the blue said that, or well, that didn't say. They showed off a new poster for the Mario movie,
Yeah.
and Star Fox is in it, apparently.
That shouldn't have been spoiled.
No, I don't. I mean, I agree.
Imagine how cool that would have been to see in theaters.
Yeah, I mean, I did see this comment today, and I did not know this, but apparently, like the Japanese premiere was like that day that the poster came out, so they were like, well, if they didn't announce it on their own, it would have gotten leaked.
Hmm.
And so it is kind of that trade off. I think maybe if these rumors are true, Nintendo made the right decision. But I agree. I think that would have been like an awesome surprise to kind of go into the theater
It
and have
comes out
no
in
clue
Japan
about.
on April 24th.
No, but I'm saying like the like red carpet premiere.
No one's taking a fucking camera phone to the red carpet. They
But you
trick
don't have
that
to. You
shit.
can tell people about it, like the people who saw it. Like it would have gotten leaked verbally.
I guess, but like you could leak anything verbally
You can
then.
leak anything, but things get leaked all the time. I'm not saying that this is a good thing. I like I said, I much would have preferred this to be a surprise, but I can like getting ahead of leaks is a good way to control the narrative. And I think in this case, Nintendo is legitimately, because the rumor is that they're putting out a Star Fox game this summer. Um, Nintendo made the right call getting ahead of it because it allows them to control the narrative as opposed to letting it leak because then it's out of control. You don't have any control over that narrative anymore. So for them to get out ahead, they can be like, hey, here's Star Fox, it's on your mind again. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, and a new game is coming out. And probably the way that they're going to do this, theoretically, if this is a legitimate rumor, well, Star Fox is now on everyone's mind before the movies come out. Give the movie a week or two to bake, then announce the Star Fox game. And, people are going to be familiar with it because of the movie. The last Mario movie was, I think, the top grossing animated film of all time when it released. So it's great advertising just to stick in some random character and kind of tie it all in together. Um, and I'm thinking that's exactly what they were thinking because obviously this movie's been in development for a couple of years, as the game would. And so if they were looking for a way to kind of, get as the most marketing push they could possibly get for Star Fox, this is the way to do it. But on the flip side, if Star Fox flops again, and this is what they legitimately did, we will never see this fucking series again. So It'll be interesting because if this time frame's real, if it is like early summer, like this are saying, like we probably will know about this game legitimately by the end of April. Uh, so there's that. Also, part of this rumor, things that are supposed to be coming out this summer, um, Splatoon Raiders, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, Rhythm Heaven Groove, and some Switch Sports thing. Um, and apparently, the rumor's even unclear if it's a Switch 2 like upgrade edition or if it's a brand new game. Nobody knows. And then to top it all off, supposedly Ocarina of Time remake is going to be this year's tentpole holiday game. That's kind of where everything is. So it's all interesting. I mean,
Hmm.
if this is a legit rumor, that's not a bad summer and fall we're looking at. Um, but yeah, I mean, we'll find out soon enough. So, also, part of his rumor was that the Nintendo Direct probably would not be until June, which is strange, but it does kind of work. It's kind of the way that they're doing it. I mean, Nintendo at this point has already announced everything that they're legitimately probably planning on releasing between now and the end of May. So if they, get Star Fox out there as an announcement, then you do June, and a direct would kind of fit in pretty nicely with that, especially if it's kind of going in with pre-release for Star Fox. But I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited for a new Star Fox game. I actually believe that they are working on that because of all the Nintendo franchises that we have seen between the Switch and the Switch 2, Star Fox is one of the ones that surprisingly has not really had much of a showing. So to get something new and exciting there would be good.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
what? You don't think so?
I just don't know if I believe it.
Believe the rumor.
Yeah, mostly because it's Star Fox, and like I don't know, man.
I
That's like
believe it
saying,
because there's no fucking reason for Star Fox to be in that fucking movie. That is exactly why. The reason
mm,
he's there is purely for marketing. And really,
you
the
might be
movie
right.
is purely marketing. I mean, really, that's legitimately at the end of the day. The Mario Brothers movie is just marketing for the games.
You know what? You're
Nintendo's
right. You're right. There's
Nintendo's
no
got to figure it out.
reason
Like, yeah,
Nintendo would drag out Star Fox. You're right. You're right. You're
yeah, they could
100%
have
right.
thrown some cool ass random Mario character in there if they needed some
No, you're
spaceship
right.
stuff.
You're right. You're
But
so
they're just
right.
like, oh no, we're gonna do Star Fox. I mean, Mario Galaxy. There's so many options there. You could have had like Captain Toad flying around in a spaceship and doing spaceshipy things. You could have. I'm trying to think because I know there's been other stuff in there too. I mean, there was that space alien from Super Mario Land. Could always use him. He flies around on a spaceship if you needed something like
Yeah,
that.
you're right.
Star Fox just makes no sense at all. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that it's kind of where they're going. Wouldn't surprise me too if there is um some sort of like massive universe thing, kind of that they're going for at the end of the day with this, but I don't know. Supposedly, if people who are going to go see this movie this weekend, it does have two extra scenes in the credits, so make sure you sit
Good to
through and
know.
watch them. Yes. Um. So, one of them apparently teases a sequel, and one of them apparently teases a spinoff, is what I had read. So, I have a very good guess as to what the spinoff may be at this point. But who knows? Yeah. So. Um, okay. I think that kind of covers all my newsy bits that I had though.
Yeah, let's talk about PlayStation for a second, shall we?
Okay. I'm sure they have great
uh,
things going on there too, right?
yeah, they're doing really good. In fact, effective immediately. I say immediately because it'll be the second by the time this comes out.
Mhm.
The PlayStation 5 is going up in price to $650. The digital edition is going up to $600. And the PS5 Pro is going up to $900.
I know, it's so wild. We'll have $1,000 console before the
Oh,
end
the
of this
PS.
generation.
There are people that think the PlayStation 6 is going to be $700 that were reporting the day the PlayStation 5 price announcement came out that it was going to still be $700. And the only thing I have to say is you're fucking delusional. This is literally just testing the waters. I almost guarantee at this point that the PlayStation 6 is going to be $1,200 for the base
Oh, I would
model.
not. I mean, I don't think they'll be that crazy, but I do think that it will
I
probably
do.
be a
I do
thousand.
because people are saying run out there and buy it before it comes $900. But hey, if it turns $900 for the PS5 Pro, it's still worth it at $900. And like all of like gaming journalists and all of IGN and this, that, and the other are like doing this now and running immediate like fucking defense over this shit. And it's like, I'm convinced this is just them getting people ready for how much the actual PS6 is going to be when it releases. And it's going to be astronomically high.
Oh yeah. Oh no, it's definitely going to be an expensive system. There's no beating around the bush on that one. The question is, how expensive are they willing to make it?
I mean,
And
if
I
they're
agree with you.
willing to make their half gen system $900, it's 100% going to be over 1,000.
Probably. Yeah, or at least that much. Um, but I saw an interesting post where they were talking about like oh, PlayStation 3 released at $600 and 6 years later it was like $299. And then they're like this one launched at whatever it was and now 6 years later it's $650. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay. Yeah, no, that is not the right direction, Sony.
That's incorrect. We're going the opposite direction. Granted, uh, Xbox did this also, and I've already screamed at them.
Yep.
But this is a massive jump. Like, if I recall correctly, the jump that Microsoft had and the jump that Nintendo had with the Series X and the Switch 2, it was nowhere near this high. Like not another $150. I think it went up by like $50 or maybe $100, but not $150. That's in fucking insane. And that's after we already had 3 price increases. So like,
Hmm.
Jesus Christ, what are we doing here? This is fucking stupid. This is
Yeah.
absolutely fucking stupid at this point. Um, I mean, RAM just went down in price by about $100, so we're getting closer to just just buy a fucking computer at that point.
Yeah. I mean, really. Um,
Which the funny thing about the RAM going down in price, you heard about that recently, right?
yeah.
So, did you also hear that like it's now like been 110% confirmed that the people that were doing like AI stuff, like the big companies, literally just wrote like IOUs and we're like, yeah, we'll give you the money back once this AI gets in place and takes off and it's not. And now they're like, so I can't pay you back. And these companies are like, well, fuck you.
Not surprised. I didn't hear that part specifically, but I'm not surprised. Why anyone would like be willing to do something like that, I have no clue. Um, you all know they weren't making money, and they weren't making money anytime soon. So why you would take that risk? Who knows? Unless it was like a really sweet deal on the other side of things.
They probably convinced them something along the lines of everything's gonna be AI. If you're AI, fucking like Crocker from fucking Fairly Odd Parents, Very Odd Parents, AI, that sort of shit. Yeah, that's my assumption essentially with how much these startup companies preached put AI into everything. They were trying to find something that would stick, and they didn't, except
Hmm.
NVIDIA with DLSS. And now they've even ruined that with DLSS 5, which looks like a fucking TikTok filter. And it's just so dumb. It's so dumb. It's so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
And we're going back to people having to optimize their games if they want to sell them.
No, that's actually another kind of thing I thought was pretty interesting with kind of where things are because I mean, I do think that, kind of with where the economy and where games are right now, we'll
Mm-hmm.
probably keep seeing these pretty wide spreads of game, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Game kind of like system requirements. Um, where you will get a lot more games like say like Resident Evil 9, where it's like, hey, I can play on this. I can look real fucking nice if you got the right computer, but I can also play on your Xbox Series S. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like because really, with the way things are, and especially with video cards and RAM and stuff, like you can't assume that people are going to drop hundreds of dollars just to upgrade those kind of things these days. So it makes sense to just be like, hey, we're going to make it so like to as broad of an audience as possible. And I think until something changes, I think we'll probably see that for a while. And especially too, for what it's worth, I mean, I know PlayStation 5 is doing well. Um, but until you really get some big kind of draw there to really get people into that space, they have a lot more incentive to kind of basically work the field and try to get as many potential purchases that they can. Um, so it'll be interesting to see if how things shape out on that side, because I could definitely see, like, you're still gonna, just like anything, you're still gonna have some devs that are gonna be like, hey, I really want to show off what cool stuff we can do with graphics, but I can also see some other devs being like, all right, we're gonna play it safe, keep it in the middle of the road and try to get as much as we can, without pushing too far in one direction or another. Um, and also too, kind of for where games are now too. I don't feel like we run into the issue where system power. I mean, there are obviously exceptions, but I don't think we run into as many instances where system power is a limiting factor for gameplay features
I
as much.
I'm gonna have to disagree with recent games. We've been seeing a lot with recent games being released on console and whatnot, especially these big Unreal Engine 5 titles. Like,
Uh
you got lucky, you played Resident Evil, which has one of the best and most optimized engines with RE engine that can run on literal fucking cell phones.
huh.
There's pretty much two games engines that are incredibly good that will run on anything. That's the engine from the people that made Horizon, which is also used for Death Stranding and Death Stranding 2, and RE engine. Those are some of the best engines. A lot of games that get released now on like PS5, Series X, yada yada yada, blah 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 blah, they opt to use Unreal Engine 5 or something else. And a lot of the time, those games are not hitting the 60 FPS limit that they are set to, and it's causing a lot of problems. Such as, we're going back to the days of like the 360 and PS3 with like screen tearing, or like things not actually just interacting correctly with your input methods. A big example of this very recently is a game called Crimson Desert, which I praised a lot because it's just really fucking weird. But I didn't necessarily say it was a good game. I just said it was a very different game, a very interesting and fun game. I
Hmm.
was playing this on PC. Apparently, if you were playing this on console, it is a totally fucking different story because it is a massively like technical game, and it really does not handle on modern consoles even that level of technicality at the best that it possibly can, and it does show its age. There have been other games that have already been showing its age as well this generation. With again, a lot of them are Unreal Engine 5, so a lot of times it's just like, okay, what are we doing here? We had problems with Resident Evil. Sorry, not Resident Evil. My bad. Other horror game. Silent Hill F had some problems. Silent Hill 2 remake had some problems on console. Different times, different modes would have it, because you got your performance and you've got your quality mode. And like I mentioned before, when the PS5 Pro came out, they were just using PSSR and just slapping quality mode with PSSR on there and everything and hoping for the best, and it ran worse than on base PS5s because of that reason. And it was the same with Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta Snake Eater. And you do see a lot of games that are being held back by the technology, but not necessarily specifically the technology, as much as it is the engines they're built in, and then how those engines interact with our current technology. And that is a thing that happens. There's a reason why you don't see some games appear on Switch, and you probably won't see some games appear on Switch, mostly because it's not built for it, and it's not built for any modern console, but the others have to try and brute force it, whereas it's not going to work out so well with Nintendo, or at least from what we've seen and heard about so far from some people. But Epic Games and Unreal Engine 5 is notorious for liars. So it's also entirely possible that they just don't want to release games that are Unreal Engine 5 on Switch 2 as well, because of some bullshit or whatever. But Unreal Engine 5 is a shit engine. It is a garbage engine that a lot of games are being built on. Another example, which was Romeo is a Dead Man. I really liked that game. It had problems on PC, and it has way bigger problems on console. So, like, I don't know. I do think we are at a point where some shit just ain't working as good as it should on console, and that is being held back by the platforms we're on right now, and there is some technical issues there. But we can't really do anything about it because we can't really optimize those games because they were already built with fucking AI upscaling, this, that, and the other bullshit in mind, because that's what they hedged all their chips on initially. And now that there's a problem with people being able to get the RAM and manufacture this, that, and the other, and with AI, taking over all this shit, and right now, there's starting to finally be a little bit of a bubble busting. We're at a point where they put all their chips into one basket, and because of that, shit's just not working out the way it should. It was never going to work out the way it should, and now they can't even get the stuff that they need because the thing they were using to make things easier to run and to not optimize is coming back to bite them in the ass because of the poor optimization caused by it. So it is a little bit of a mess, and I do think that what you were saying about the technology already being good enough and whatnot, that we don't have to worry about it, isn't necessarily true in a lot of cases.
Okay, well, now that you had your little rant, I'm going to actually try to explain what I was trying to say because it's not what you were saying.
You could have interrupted and said that you weren't trying to say that because it was the way I explained it. I mean, it was the way I thought you were explaining it.
No, I was talking about game features specifically, but I don't disagree with you in terms of the engine. I mean, like, it is a valid point, and it would come up again later in the discussion anyways. Because obviously, yeah, the engine choices make a big difference in terms of what's going to run on different platforms and what's not going to run on different platforms. But I'm saying, I think at this point, most common platforms are at a point where, like, in terms of gameplay features, like, if you want to make, like, what you can imagine gameplay wise, for the most part, can be imagined on any platform. But you're going to run into, your bigger limiting thing is going to be like the engine and the graphics that you kind of choose to go along with it. There's not a lot of stuff anymore, and I'm trying to think of a good example. Like probably, kind of, if you go back a couple generations, things like destructible environments would be, a deal breaker depending on like the platform. Like, we don't have like those kind of like gameplay like aspects that are like deal breakers, that at least not that I can think of anymore.
But have we seen games that have like destructible environments as big as what we used to have? I feel like because of engine limitations, that's not happening anymore, and that's why you're not seeing those features, and you're not having this conversation about like, oh yeah, those features would have made it so this shit would never run. Well, now they're just not putting those features in games.
I mean, that was literally the premise of like Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Correct.
Like,
I guess I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking more of like along the lines of like, you remember
like playing Resident Evil, like a building's blowing up or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, in terms of like if you sit down and like, hey, this is the game I want to make, just kind of just on paper, not typing anything, not programming anything, but like, this is the game that I want to make in terms of like how you play, like your kind of game design document. Like, you can pretty much envision that on any platform. Just sit there. It's not like before, like I said, was trying to say, like, oh, I want to do something with a respectable environment. Oh, I can't do a Game Boy game, it's got to be on these platforms.
I do think some open world games might not work on Switch due to its CPU limitations, but I'm not 100% sure yet. Because we need more data on that. Like GTA 5 would probably be fine on Switch 2 right now. We don't know how stressed the CPU will be with something like GTA 6 whenever and if it ever releases.
But also, in terms of this context that I'm like trying to stay in, like, we're still talking about gameplay. Like, if you're talking about the city and the features in that regard,
Yeah.
you should not have, theoretically, Cyberpunk can run on the Switch too. So, something like GTA, just as a
Sure,
concept
its
should
its
be able
world
to.
density is turned down though for Cyberpunk, which is fine.
No,
That's
I,
not a
I
problem.
understand it,
But
but
you're
that's,
saying like
but
not being able to run, period. Like that's what
But
you're saying. Like,
I'm not even talking about it. I'm talking about like, the core elements of Grand Theft Auto, like stealing cars, shooting people, going into different buildings, driving around. Like those things are all doable. Like those are
mm-hmm,
not going to be necessarily things that, if you were going to make a game,
mm-hmm,
like you can make that core concept on any of the systems. Really the issue that you're going to run into is what engine are you going to use? What kind of graphics are you going to use? And what's your minimal acceptable difference, in terms of, platform settings. Like something like, for example, I
so
know
you're
there
saying
was
there's like
one.
no genre limitations, no idea limitations to what games can
Yes.
be released on each. Okay, I understand that way more
Mhm.
now. I thought you were explaining it as in like no limitations as to
Yeah, no,
like
like I'm not insane enough to think like every game will run on the Switch too if you just turn
yeah
on the graphics settings. My
yeah
point was, in terms of concepts, when you're sitting down and starting to make your design document for your game, like
hmm
you can sit down and theoretically any idea that you think of on paper can theoretically be made for any of the systems. At that point though, really the big decisions are, how big of a user base do you want to target it to?
mm,
Um, and then will help you decide, hey, what engine am I going to use? How deep am I going to go in graphics? Can I do, what am I going to do with lighting? Like those kind of things all come in
hmm
after the fact. um
I do have a question to you
yeah.
about this. Um, let's say, at least on the side of Switch 2,
Hmm.
you've got games like Call of Duty on PS5 or whatever. You've got
Yeah.
games like Arc Raiders on PS5 or Xbox or whatever. You've got those sort of live service titles. You've got
Hmm.
like Destiny 2. You've got yada yada yada. You know what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what
yeah.
I'm saying. You've got those. These games require a specific form of communication in some respect, to actually be able to play them in like a competitive nature and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sort of deal.
Hmm.
Do you think that the lack thereof, now I know you have the video chat and yada 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 blah blah blah, but the lack of things like a party system that you have on the Switch 2, like you don't have that on the Switch 2 outside of the video chat, for instance. Do you think
Hmm.
the lack of something like that could hold back the Switch 2 from having games like the ones that I've just talked about, like the ones that have more social aspects but are specifically like online social aspects? Like uh,
I mean, I would say
you know,
yes and no. I mean,
uh-huh.
I think it's going to be more of a limiting factor. So it's kind of going to work in, you got to kind of think about it backwards.
Mhm.
So from a development perspective, is it necessarily going to be a limiting factor? No. I mean, theoretically, they have plenty of ways to work around that, like you said.
Mhm. Mhm.
They, but the issue is, like, are those going to be acceptable to the people who would buy it? And that's where it's going to be. That's where you're going to run into the issues, because you're going to be like, well, my friends are all on Xbox and I can party chat there. Well, yeah, you can't really necessarily do that on the Switch. I know a lot of gamers are like, I just use Discord or Twitch anyways,
Yeah, of
for those
course, of
kind of
course.
things. So, maybe that wouldn't be an issue for some
But
people, but
let's
it's
say
going
something
to
like
probably
Arc
result
Raiders.
in, yeah. But I mean,
Like I
at the end of
mentioned
the day,
last year, it was so interesting because of the communication you'd be able to have in game, in the game itself. I don't think you'd be able to have that same experience if you were playing it on Switch 2, because of the fact that it's a different like community, and also the Switch isn't really built around having that communication experience directly through the console itself.
yeah.
I
I mean, and I mean, there, like I said, there are ways around it. I mean, the Switch, you can use headsets with it if you really want to. I mean, if you
You
wanted to
can.
make it into the game, you can. But like I said, the more barriers to entry you have, the less
Mhm.
appealing that particular version is going to be, which is going to result in less sales. So it's one of those things that's like, yeah, Call of Duty can exist on the Switch too, and it can, probably have feature parity, depending on what you're doing. However, all those barriers to actually getting into it are going to make people want to buy it on other systems, which is going to
Yeah,
result in less sales, which is going to probably result in the
it's the
next
same
one
thing that
not
happened
coming
like
out.
on Wii U, for instance, like Call
Yeah,
of Duty. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and it's just it's more of those like it's probably a fine version of the game. It's just
Hmm.
for the people that want to play competitive. That's just not where you're going to play it. And really, at the end of the day, too, even just with the graphical discrepancies, even if you have like a decent running game there, it may not be the best version for competitive. The Switch definitely sacrifices performance in a lot of times.
Hmm.
Um, so, do you really want, a Call of Duty that maybe is not going to be running smoothly all the time just because you can play it portably? If you want to play Call of Duty portably and that's a great way to play, then yeah, that's the thing. But if you're going to play professional, you're not going to be playing it on the Switch too.
Yeah, and there are, again, Nintendo's got their own answer to competitive games on Switch and Switch 2 with things like Splatoon. Splatoon's very highly competitive in the multiplayer aspect of it.
Yeah.
And that shit can get crazy, and people have still found a way to actually play that game competitively without, the need for voice chat and communication through
Yeah.
the
And
actual game
Nintendo made
itself.
it so that you could communicate enough in that game. But
Yeah.
I think the people who actually do teams, I think they actually play with like headsets, don't they?
I don't know. I've never watched a
Mm.
competitive Splatoon
I've seen
match.
like bits
I
and
just know
pieces.
that they are huge. So
Yeah. And it's
yeah.
it's a lot bigger than I think a lot of people give it thought
Hmm.
to. But I mean I agree with you on that point. Like it's not necessarily and but it's just like anything though, and I think I've been harping on this for years and years, so it
Yeah.
shouldn't be anything else. Like you build the game to the platform.
Yeah. No, I
So,
get that. I think there should just
it,
be more social features to the Switch 2 for these kind of games, and implementation for them that makes it easier for people to sell them on that platform, because it's not built for that platform necessarily. Because, like, I do think personally that Arc Raiders would do very, very well on the Switch too if it was released, and if
Mhm.
they had the right method of communication, and not just through like, oh, my Nintendo Party app thing, where I have the video up and you can see my face. You don't want that. You want an actual like form of like a lobby chat system or something, or like a proximity chat system. You would need something like that, but I think if they did have something like that, then a game like Arc Raiders would do very, very well on the Switch too. That would be a great game to take on the go, like somewhere. Like I'm going to, I don't know, like a hotel room or something. I'm not bringing my laptop, but bring my Switch too and play Arc Raiders on it. It'd
Yeah.
be pretty fun, especially if they had like, the crossover between accounts like right now Switch 2 has, and it's a very important game to the industry right now. They have Fortnite on the Switch 2, and it
Mhm.
works very, very well. Um, it's a really good version, but again, I would rather have those built-in options for like party chat and not just some video chat bullshit.
Yeah,
And I'm pretty sure
exactly.
other developers would too, yeah, for games like that.
Yeah, and even if anything, having, a first party system
Hmm.
makes it easier for them to implement it, and it also makes the user base more willing to use it. And so without having those things there, it just makes that system less appealing for that kind of thing. But on the flip side, for people who do really say like Fortnite, because you it's a good example because you just mentioned it. Like I wouldn't be surprised if those people maybe even had two versions of the game, something that, at home to run on, a solid platform if they're doing it, kind of more frequently, and then, maybe the Switch version to take portably when they do want to go and they know they're not going to be home to play it. So, um I mean, I think it gives people options, and I think that's really at the end of the day that's the important thing. If you want to, like even with me and Indiana Jones, like hey, I can play Indiana Jones right now if I really wanted to, but I'm planning on rebuying it on the Switch too because I really like the game and I really like the ability to have it digitally and available to play whenever I want, wherever I want. Um, and so those are also kind of things that you got to kind of weigh in on those purchases too. So, like I said, it's definitely, I feel like the gaming industry as a whole is in the midst of a shifting point. And so it'll be really interesting to kind of see where things do kind of end up settling out on this. There was I think it was a Jason Schreier thing. But it did just remind me there was a screenshot that I took of a comment. Um, so yeah, so Jason Schreier said that AAA game budgets are now breaking past 300 million budget. Um, and really what that means at the end of the day is basically this is what Jason had said. But if you sell a game at $70 and pocket $49 on every sale, um, then you would need to sell 6 million copies just to break even on a $300 million budget. Like that's wild.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it's like that's why I think we're starting to see like those
Why?
prices gradually increase.
Why? Like, here's my question. Right? You
Hmm.
have something like Pokopia, for
Okay.
instance. And I
Yeah.
don't know how much it costs, but I do not think personally that it's one of those $300 million games. Let's be
No, probably
100%
not.
honest here.
Yeah.
You have something like Astrobot, and I don't think it costs anywhere near that. You know,
Hmm.
you have something like Ghost of Yotei, which was built off of the engine that already existed and other such things, and I'm pretty sure it didn't cost anywhere near that.
Hmm.
All of these games are totally fine. Some of these are absolutely fucking phenomenal. One of them won Game of the Year, and another one might win it this year. Who fucking
Hmm.
knows? My point is, if people are enjoying these experiences that aren't costing the 300 million, $400 million games, yada yada yada, and they get the rewards, they get the awards, they get the sales numbers, they get the return on investment. Why is the gaming industry so fucking stupid that they don't just make more like that?
Like more games that are like budget friendly.
Yes. Like PlayStation proved it with Astrobot.
Yeah.
Everyone played Astrobot. It won Game of the Year. It was a phenomenal game, and it was what people wanted. And then Sony just was like, "Yeah, we're not gonna make another one of those. Fuck it." Like, why? Why are you fucking stupid? Why don't you have more games in that kind of ballpark instead of these 300, $500 million games that you're not even breaking even on? Why?
I mean, I
Are
think
you
a lot of it.
actually fucking stupid? Like, that's my question.
Well,
Like,
I
are
mean, a
they
lot of it.
actually dumb?
I mean, gamers are really fickle. I mean, you think about something like keeping it
If they're
Pokopia,
fickle, then those games wouldn't have sold. That's my point. Like,
but
they
I'm talking about
sold.
like, but that's what I'm talking about. Like games that don't sell, or maybe don't
You
sell
wouldn't
as
have
much as
things
they
like
want.
Slay the Spire. You wouldn't have things like Terraria. You wouldn't have things like fucking Minecraft if gamers were as fickle as you think they are. I think the
Okay, but
mentality of these people are that they have to make these kind of games, and now they've gotten stuck in such a repeated cycle that they're not seeing any return on investment. All they're seeing is studio closures and failures, and they don't realize it's their own fucking fault.
I mean that some of it is that the development side of things, like Sony and Microsoft giving developers blank checks just to do whatever, and that's just going to blow up those budgets. That's one thing. But on the other side too, when I say like gamers are fickle, like what I mean by that is that I think of something like Pokemon Legends ZA, where people just bitched about like the balconies and stuff on the buildings. Um, a lot of game development investment is into graphics and those kind of systems. So do you want to ride the line of having a great looking expensive game and run the risk there? Like there's always risk, and it's just kind of where they want to let it go. Like obviously if you have a great looking game that just takes great screenshots, that gets people's attention. But if you have an ugly looking game, that's obviously going to turn people away. So you kind of have to ride that line. What is acceptable, what's not, what's going to turn people off, what's going to be a system seller. And sometimes it's really hard to guess. Something like Pokopia has pretty simple looking graphics, and it's taking off very well. Um, and I agree with you. It probably was not a $300 million budget. I'm sure it probably had a decent budget. But a lot of the development on that game, I actually was probably um, was subsidized by Dragon Quest builders, because they didn't have to invest as much into some of those aspects of that game, because they already had built them and just kind of built on top of them.
Of course, but if
Um,
every game has already been built through fucking Unreal Engine and this, that, and the other, because that's what we seem to be using right now for
mhm.
almost everything that's coming out, and we have like ideas and general this, that, and the other put together. Like, why the fuck is shit costing so much? I just don't. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Because, like, I get development costs for keeping the studio open. I get, keeping the lights on. I get all of that. I get all of that. But why do
It,
these advertising budgets? Because if you look, right,
mhm.
you will look at something like Spider-Man 2 or
Yeah.
Spider-Man, for
Mhm.
instance. A large amount of the budget is from advertising and from things like that. Spider-Man doesn't fucking need advertising. It is Marvel. You don't need so much money for advertising for something that's already established. That's what you need for something that's unestablished. So why are we wasting those funds of a $350 million game on like a large portion of it being advertising when I'm going to be completely honest, Spider-Man sells its fucking self. Show a few trailers, you're done. You don't need it tagged onto every fucking movie. You don't need gigantic fuck off billboards for it. You don't need all of that stuff. It's all superficial bullshit and it doesn't matter. It doesn't make the game sell more or less. They're investing their money into elements of gaming for a large amount that isn't needed, especially for something that's already established. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well,
That's my whole point.
no, and I don't disagree
It
with
feels
you on
more like
certain things.
this is a show. Like we have to do this because it's always been the way it is. Why? Why not just break the mold and do something else? Like it's not that difficult.
But they have
I
to have some
and
advertising
I don't
because
disagree. But you could do so much advertising through people, through the internet, where everyone fucking is. You don't have to do it as big movie billboards or movie theater trailers or this, that, and the other.
no,
You
those
could
kind of
do
things
it,
you don't need. I don't disagree with you there.
and
But
a
you have
lot
to
of money
remember,
goes into doing something like that.
yes, but you have to remember
Hmm.
we are the minority. Most gamers do not spend time looking up games on the internet. A lot of them are casual and they just walk through Walmart and they're just like, "Oh, there's a new Spider-Man game out. Cool." Like that's their first introduction to it. Like
That is not true. That is, I'm gonna be
it
honest with you right
happens.
now. It is 100% not true with something like Spider-Man. With something like Spider-Man or something that's already massively established, we are at a point in time in society where people that do what you just described are the minority, not us.
No, you are so wrong.
Not
I
even a billion years for something like
go go
Spider-Man.
work go work retail for a week.
Marvel people are literal noses to the grindstone watching every fucking thing they can to do with the property that they consume. Marvel people are not people that
Marvel
walk in.
people are also not necessarily the people I'm talking about in this case.
I was
Like,
giving that as an example, so
mhm.
then people you are describing don't work for the example that I'm giving. I was giving this specific example because of the fact that they spent so much on a game of Spider-Man and a lot of that much that was spent was through marketing, which didn't need to happen because Spider-Man itself sells itself. And then they wonder why gaming budgets are getting so out of hand. Why is everything costing so much when they'll take a property that's established, a la Spider-Man for instance, and pump all these things into it, put so much money into the advertising budget when the thing itself doesn't need that much because it's already massively established and people already would have bought it no matter what because it is a Marvel property, because it is that. And the main reason I brought that up in this case is because one of the most expensive games to make, besides GTA 6 that we have not got to see yet because it hasn't been made yet, is Marvel Spider-Man 2. And my question is, why was so much fucking budget spent on advertising and marketing when it's fucking Spider-Man? That's my
Well,
point.
you
I'm
still have.
saying people are dumb as shit for spending that much money.
Well,
They
yeah, probably they're still dumb as shit. But like I said, I think you were very much overestimating how oblivious people who are casual gamers are to what goes on in the industry.
Are you
Like,
thinking back when you were working at GameStop and stuff like that? Because if I was thinking that, then I would agree with you. But in our in the year 2026, that's just not how it works anymore. A lot of people became very glued to the internet, very informed of things since COVID era happened. And a lot of people, especially in established properties like Marvel, know when every little thing releases for the property in question.
When's the last time you've like had a game conversation with like a casual gamer, like a truly casual gamer?
Again, I am specifically talking about the most expensive game that was ever made and the brand that it is tied to. That is what I am specifically talking about. And if we're talking about like, oh, a game like, I don't know, fucking uh uh Johnny's biking trip or some dumb shit like that that's like, oh, it's massive in the gaming industry, but no one's heard of it outside of. Yeah, I understand that. But if you're talking about something like fucking Spider-Man, everyone knows that it's coming, and you don't need gigantic million, 20 million, 40 million, 50, $100 million budgets just to advertise that it's coming. That is my point. Why is the game that costs the most money to make that people keep pointing to being like, the games are so expensive to make, look how much this one costs? Why did they use a property that's so established and then literally just mismanage their money, and now they're pointing to that and being like, oh, games are so expensive to make, but when it's their own dumb fault because they just mismanaged the way that they made the property in the first place. It doesn't make any sense. It's so stupid. Spider-Man is literally was the font for the PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
Literally was the font for the PlayStation 3.
It does what
Spider-Man
does
2,
that font jump off of the PlayStation and be like, "Hey, new game is out now"?
no, it doesn't. But again, I have mentioned this already and you're not getting it. The most expensive game that has ever been made was a Marvel property.
Okay,
And a
I
lot of
don't.
its budget was in marketing.
I understand both of those things very well because you've said it multiple times. I'm not disagreeing that the marketing was too expensive. Then they could have probably pared that back.
It is what
That is
people
not that.
point
But
to and say gaming is
but
so expensive to make now when it was just a bunch of fucking idiots that mismanaged their money. It's all bullshit. That's what I'm saying. It's literally all bullshit.
yes, I like I said, but I said I truly think you're discounting how much a casual gamer actually pays attention to what is releasing and what is not releasing. Um, and even if like yeah, even if you know Spider-Man is a game that's coming and existing, um, is it out today? Is it out tomorrow? Is it out next week? Is it out 2 months from now? Like there's lots of stuff that kind of goes into that kind of stuff. And also too, even with stuff like GameStop receding, game sections getting smaller, there's less and less gaming specific areas to really kind of put that focus in. Like people who are gamers and actually are like regularly on their systems, yeah, they don't even need like big advertising. They're gonna see this stuff through the gaming system itself. They're gonna see it through stuff like YouTube advertising. Yeah,
But
sure.
isn't
Like
gaming not growing? Like isn't it stagnated at this point because like they aren't super increasing over what they originally had with the PS4 generation. They're just getting back the people from the PS4 generation, getting them to upgrade to PS5. All right? So you've
yeah.
already got those people that are gamers or gamers in some sort of way. Obviously,
Mhm.
they're new gamers obviously being born in that sort of thing, but they're being born in an age of technology. They're not being born in an age of $40 million billboards. They're not. They're just not. And people, more and more people are absolutely connected to the internet. In some cases, even more so than their outside life. And it's
Yeah.
and that's a very big thing for casuals. And we don't need these $100 million, $40 million billboard bullshits or
No, you don't
playing
need
in
a hundred
front of.
dollar bill. You don't need you don't need $100 million billboards, but you do need some advertising that's going to get out broadly to the population to let them know. Yes, it's probably mostly going to be digital, through the
It,
internet, through ads, here and there.
And they needed that $2 million ad spot for the Super Bowl. They needed all of this
No,
stuff. It's not a
they don't. They don't need those kind of things. But like I said,
And
they
that's
they
the
do
whole
it.
point I've been trying to make. They've been mismanaging their money, and now they're just trying to
And I
say
never disagreed with you on those kind of things. I'm
gaming
just
is
saying, like, have to
so
have some
expensive. And it's like,
advertising.
no, you're just fucking stupid. Like, you don't understand how to do advertising. You don't understand how to sell your product, and so you're just throwing money at the walls hoping it sticks, and then you want us to bail you out by paying more and more for all your fucking products when you are just mismanaging how you're selling them in the first fucking place.
Yeah. I mean, really, that's been the issue for the last year. I mean, we've been talking about the same things with Microsoft. We've been talking about the same things everywhere. Money has been horribly mismanaged in the gaming industry, and that's part of the reason why things are getting so expensive. Like, what was that game, Concord?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That
fucking
was that
sucks.
was
It's already dead. But you know what? Sony still has to pay for it. So like, those costs, even if you're like, oh yeah, they're making profit on these other games. Yeah, they're making profit, but it's going to paying off this that wasted $200 million on a game that's not going to make a single cent. And those are the issues that really need to get squared away behind the scenes for gaming to make any
Wouldn't that
practical.
also be mismanaging their money? Like I just spent the whole last 30, 40 minutes talking about. They pumped it into something that was a fad that had already passed, being the hero shooter. They pumped it into something that was another fad that had already passed, which was being very ha ha he he. We were going to be like Marvel when Marvel was at its lowest point in time. They pumped it into having like a TV show as well as having a episode completely made for it from the ground up for another TV show as a form of advertising it. Like another great example of just the people that are making these things, they don't know how to use their advertising budgets and they're dumb as shit.
Yeah, no, they are dumb. And like I said, money's been mismanaged from top to bottom, and it's not necessarily the marketing budgets alone. Like, yeah, those are out of hand. But like I said, you do have to have at least, some investment in marketing because you have to let people know that stuff's coming out. Not everyone's glued to
Correct.
the
You
internet
don't
all the
need
time.
to hijack another television show to market your game.
No, yeah, you don't need it. Yeah, and you could there's creative ways to do marketing too. Like
Like,
obviously, some companies do very well with those kind of things, and
oh yeah.
generally creative stuff can be relatively cheap. Like you don't have to spend a ton of money on it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there's tons and tons and tons of waste in the video game industry. Even things too that we don't think about, like demos. Demos are expensive. Demos are not free. Demos are not like I'm just gonna put a ending, a title screen that says buy our game after you open the store. Like there's tweaking, they got to make it so it's like appealing. Like there was a demo that just came out for something that was it was a Switch game. Um what was that Switch game or not Switch game? It is a Switch game. You didn't play it on the Switch. It's PC. It's that one that I was like it's really cool and you like build things with your like RV kind of looking
Oh
thing.
yeah, yeah. I told you about that game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Outbound just had a demo come out. It's on Xbox. That's where the
Yeah,
demo's at.
Ebon had a demo on the Switch as well, and
Oh,
it is
nice.
so bad that I've not seen anyone actually enjoy it. And most people said that this demo is so poor and so poorly optimized that it actually entirely dissuaded them from buying the game.
Hmm.
Um, but like those are the kind of thing, like you kind of think about stuff like obviously they made a demo, they had to build that, like there was a
Hmm.
cost there. That is probably going to end up costing them way more money than not having released
I
anything.
think that's why you don't see a lot of demos on
No, you don't.
console
It's been
side
a
of
problem,
things from like Square Enix and whatnot. And then theirs is essentially like you have this much time to play this area and then buy. And in some cases, if you recall, games like with Sega, when they released the demo for, I think it was Yakuza 4 on PlayStation 3, they accidentally fucked up and they just gave everyone the whole game. And they
Oh,
had to take it back. Yeah. I think the way that those demos are handled are a little bit different than what you were just describing, but I think yeah, you see demos a lot more often on PC because of the fact that it is something that, at least on PC, you're not having to jump through a bunch of hoops. You're not having to pay to get it out in the first place. You're also not having to do this, that, and the other, and it is a much easier process of being able to patch it and fix things that may be broken in said demo in a manner that is timely and can also still allow people to experience it and not have their entire perception of the game changed, unlike what you had just described with Outbound on the Switch 2, for instance.
Yeah, but it's like that old adage. You only get one chance to make a first impression. Like
Mhm.
it's too late. You already lost all those sales. Um, so but like I said, really the point of this whole conversation and that part aspect of it was just the cost. Like there's lots of ways that companies make or waste money, and until they start to be more
I think if
conservative
you
on that
had,
side of things.
I think if you had a good demo, right? You listening?
Yeah.
I think that that would be one of the better ways to actually sell your game if you had a good one, like one you are convinced is good, is gonna work, you've done testing for and everything. Do think you are likely to get more sales based off of the demo's reception and feedback. But I do think it's also, again, like you've just mentioned, it is a very risky thing if it has issues that you haven't like thoroughly combed over. Now, would that increase development time? Yep, absolutely. You're
Yeah.
100% correct. It would. But I do think that a demo of something is more likely to bring you more sales than a billboard out in Times Square somewhere. Just saying.
Possibly. It all depends. There's way too many factors in both things. It's like, it's something like Times Square billboard. Yeah, it's probably going to be fucking expensive, but a lot of people are going to see it, and it could be something interesting. You do interesting advertisement. It's going to catch people's attention, and they're going to want to go and look at it.
A lot of people are
Whereas,
also going to see it that would never have ever played it and still are never going to play it, and it's completely a waste of time for those people. As
yeah, but
opposed
yeah,
to going to your direct audience and convincing them, hey, check this shit out. It's really good. You should buy it day one. And then people, they do pre-orders, they do this, they do that, they do the other, and your game sells better based off of someone's experience with it. I
yeah,
know for a fact Vampire Crawler is going to sell like fucking hotcakes once it releases because of how well the demo did. Just like I knew Raccoon was going to sell like fucking hotcakes because of how good the demo did. And those are just two examples. There are plenty of other games that have done the same thing and done incredibly well because of it. We've seen it with things like the Yakuza Infinite game, for instance. We've seen it with things like
but something like both of those games, though,
Dynasty Warriors. I was giving examples of AAA and then giving examples of indie, so that's why I brought both of them.
No, but I was gonna say, but in both of those cases, though, really at the end of the day, the bigger thing is not necessarily the demo; it's the word of mouth. Like people are gonna try it and really enjoy it, and that's really what's gonna be there. And I think in both of those
The
cases,
demo allowed
if
the word
that
of mouth to exist because someone
the
played it and
demo
experienced.
allowed the word of mouth to exist before the game came out.
Yes.
But I think that, if both of those games came out today without a demo and people were just trying them for the first time, you would still have, a really nice boost from word of mouth. And I don't think that the demo is actually probably, regardless of how good the game is actually going to result in lesser sales because there's going to be someone who's going to buy it and not going to like it and not have, and ultimately decide not to buy the game because of that, where they may have bought it if they did not know. Doesn't necessarily, it's shitty when I say it like that, isn't it? But it's true. You're going to get more sales probably without a demo because people who may actually be turned off by it are going to buy it. Whereas the other way they may not. But at the end of the day, especially with something that has like really good word of mouth, like I'm trying to think of a game that just really kind of went viral word of mouth wise.
Oh, I got
Expedition
one.
33.
No,
So
I was gonna say something like Repo or um oh god, Balatro.
Belatro's a great example. Yeah.
Vampire Survivors.
Yeah, Vampire Survivors also, tried and true. But especially I think in both of those cases, it's not like they needed that. I don't even remember if there was a demo for Belatro or Vampire
There
Survivors.
was not.
In both cases, I heard about them both from word of mouth.
Hmm.
Obviously, I've heard both of
No,
them from
that's why I
you,
was
but
giving an
Belatro, I've heard
example
about it on the other
for
side
you
too.
for word of mouth.
So
Like you're right about the word of mouth thing is also very important. That's why I brought that up.
yeah, so Yeah,
Although,
okay.
again, I'm always going to give you a word of mouth when it comes to fucking indie games because I love indie titles.
Yeah, no, exactly. And and just like I
But a
think,
lot of people would never have touched that without other people doing so. And once other people did, I mean, that's the same reason why free keys are given away to like streamers and YouTubers and this, that, and the other, and that for to get people to come in and play their game. But I think that you can kind of avoid that and also avoid that loss of that one sale that you would, or someone's sales by giving that attention to a demo and getting the sales based off of that, because then you're giving a demo to streamers and not a full title to streamers, and then they're using the demo to sell the game, and then everyone is buying it based off of a demo, and it's not based off of a lost sales kind of metric, that sort of
yeah,
thing.
exactly. Well, though I think though too on the other side, I think you can get away probably with a little more wiggle room in terms of what you're doing if you're giving a targeted demo to say like a streamer as opposed
Mhm.
to a demo to the general population. Because then you also have other things to worry about too when you're doing stuff like that. Like if you give it, if you give a limited amount of demos to streamers, you can kind of keep your eye on them. You know what's going on with them. Opening up to wider audience.
So
I
the
don't
thing
think
that
it's a.
doesn't make any sense is
Mhm.
Outbound had an alpha, and like it was sold, and also before that they had an alpha where they gave it to streamers, kind of like what we're talking about right now, but it was like an alpha demo, and there wasn't problems with that one. So like, what happened? That's what I'm confused about.
Mhm.
Because it seems like they broke the game when updating it or something, and then just it was broken when it got to consoles from the sounds of it, which is a huge mess. Because
Mhm.
I played it, and I mean, it was broken then too. I broke the game. I showed you some of my ways I broke it.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, and that those are kind of the things that that you get worried about with like a broader audience. A
Mhm,
streamer's probably not going to go into that like depth with it, but they're going to show off the game and really kind of highlight
mhm.
some of the strengths. But you don't have to worry about just the general populace tearing everything apart and finding out every little secret before the game comes out. So
I think that's okay, because then that brings people to want to find out what's in the full version. I think
depends on
that
the game.
also drives sales. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I do agree with that. I do agree with that. So like if it's like Yakuza 4 with the example I gave where they accidentally gave the full game, yeah, absolutely, that's bad. But if it's something like, again, like the Vampire Crawlers demo, for instance, then that was really good. That sold that game to a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
So,
definitely. And something like that makes, listen, you kind of have to really think about demos and like on a
yeah,
very specific basis. And you even think about like, where like think about how Nintendo's been demoing things even kind of with the Switch 2 recently. Like
yeah.
for example, like Tomodachi Life had a broadly released demo,
Yes.
which is available to anyone that owns a Switch 2. They can just, pick it up and play. But for something like, say, like Metroid Prime 4, the demos were in the
Pocopia.
stores. I don't even know if Pocopia had a
It
demo even
doesn't
at
have
all.
one. That was what I was going to say. It
Oh,
didn't
okay.
have it. That is a
Mhm.
example of word of mouth is what
Yep,
drove that one's
exactly.
sales.
Yeah. And I think something like Pocopia, like for example, would be a horrible waste of resources to make a demo for that
Yeah,
game.
no, I agree.
Because it's not something that's going to be able to be fully enjoyed by a demo, and there's going to be too many games too complex for a demo. Basically, it's how
I
I
do
would say.
think I do think personally, right? This
Mhm.
this is how I would have handled it if it did have a demo. The first region area with a few elements maybe hidden away. But the first region area would be where you could play, and you could play for a certain amount of time, and you could follow the story, or you could do what you already can do in the game, which is just already get ready to start building stuff and
Mhm.
making a town. I think if it was labeled as like a trial or something instead, I do think that that would also be a very easy way to sell. But let's reel it all the way back in and also bring this to a close.
Yes.
I think the main reason I brought this up is because everything I just described, you said, yeah, like this could sell things, this could sell things, this could sell things, these ways could sell things. All of these ways that I have just described and that you have just described, word of mouth, demos, hands-on at events, all of these are better than erecting fucking $120 million billboards.
I
That's
did.
my
I
point.
never disagreed with you, even in the beginning.
That's
Like
my
I
point.
said, my
That
point,
was my
my
main
point
point
to
at
this
the end
whole
of the
thing
day.
was there is good ways to invest your marketing money, and there are bad ways to invest your marketing money, and it's really your bang for the buck. But like I said, you have to have some. You need that kind of word of mouth to generate interest, or otherwise the thing's just going to get lost.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all. That's really. I think we're both on the same side of things there. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, you ready to wrap up?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm good. I'm
Okay.
good. I'm good. Exactly. I said exactly twice.
Yeah.
I am ready.
All right.
I'm also
Wow.
fried. Like I'm done.
All right. Thank you everyone for listening to us tonight. Don't forget you can find our episodes on Stitcher, Google, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes. All of our episodes are available on game-crunch.com. And if you want to reach out to us, gamecrunchcast@gmail.com. Brandon,
Hello.
any final thoughts?
No, I'm good.
All right. That said, my name is Mike Anastasia. You can find me online. I'm Clash of Penguin there or on your favorite gaming console. And until next week, game on.
Game on.
Booting up the dream again, screen glow on my sleepy face. Little town of Procopia, loading like a saving grace. You were there in the starter grass, laughing when I tripped and fell. Said if we're gonna catch 'em all, we better learn to catch ourselves. Game on in Procopia, hearts up. We don't power down, every loss another story, another chance to turn it around. Game on in Procopia, side by side until we're strong. If the world tries to reset us, we just press start and carry on. Game on, game on, game on, hey, yeah. Trading secrets on the couch, cable cords in a tangled knot. You named your first one after me, said it made you miss a shot. Every badge a tiny spark, pinned inside a dusty case. But the brightest little victory was seeing you light up that place. Game on in Procopia, hearts up. We don't power down, every loss another story, another chance to turn it around. Game on in Procopia, side by side until we're strong. If the world tries to reset us, we just press start and carry on. Game on, game on, game on, oh. Someday when the servers sleep and our old accounts are gone, I'll still hear your battle cry in every quiet dawn. 'Cause we leveled up in love past every glitch and storm. You turned a simple little map into a living, breathing world. Game on in Procopia, hearts up. We don't power down, every loss another story, another chance to turn it around. Game on in Procopia, side by side we're holding strong. If the ending screen is waiting, we'll press continue one more run. Game on, game on, game on, game on. Yeah. Game on, game on, game on, game on. Yeah.
What's up?
Nothing's going on with you.
Nothing.
Exciting.
Yeah, I'm going to look and see what I played this week. I didn't. Okay.
You didn't what?
I didn't play anything this week.
Oh.